Have you ever wondered what's actually standing between you and your ultimate spiritual goals? I mean, we live in a world with literally infinite options, right? Every single day, we're just bombarded with different paths to take, new lifestyles to try out, and a million different ways to supposedly find meaning. It creates this constant, very modern struggle with the fear of missing out. We all want to reach those highest peaks of fulfillment, but we end up paralyzed by the sheer number of routes available to get there. But what if the very things we think are helping us navigate this journey are actually the roadblocks preventing us from reaching our destination? Well, welcome to today's Explainer. I am super excited to guide you through a truly fascinating piece of writing today. We're going to be analyzing a profound 2022 philosophical essay by the author Zhu Feng, and it's titled "Only by Leaving Everything Behind Can We Go Far." It is an intense, completely uncompromising look at the journey to spiritual fulfillment. We're going to unpack exactly what Zhu Feng believes is required to navigate this journey, and I promise you, some of his conclusions are going to absolutely challenge how you think about intelligence, emotion, and commitment. Okay, let's dive right into the deep end with Zhu Feng's central and admittedly pretty provocative thesis. He writes, "Only when your heart is dead can you walk a long way." Now, I know dead heart sounds a little grim at first glance, but in the context of this essay, it's actually a really powerful metaphor. He isn't talking about being unfeeling or depressed. No, he's referring to a state of ultimate determination. It's all about killing off those endless alternative options and the constant what-ifs that distract us. To travel this long, metaphorical road to spiritual completion, your heart has to be completely resolute. It has to be immune to the sway of 1,000 other possibilities. All right, let's look at Section 1, the road to heaven, and understanding the destination and the plow.
So this road to heaven is described as incredibly beautiful and charming, but it's also exceptionally long and just absolutely filled with traps of temptation. To give us a picture of the required mindset for this road, the essay leans on a foundational reference to the teachings of Jesus. Specifically, Luke chapter 9, verse 62, "He who looks back while holding the plow in his hand is not worthy of entering the kingdom of God." Think about the physical act of plowing a field for a second. If you're holding a heavy plow and you turn your head to look behind you, the furrow you're cutting immediately veers off course. The action demands complete, unwavering forward focus. And according to Zhu Feng, stepping onto the spiritual path is exactly like holding that plow. Moving on to Section 2, the danger of looking back. This is all about the restless mind and the fear of missing out. You know, staying perfectly focused is so much easier said than done. Think about the stark contrast between our physical actions and our internal state. On one hand, you have the physical motion of moving forward. You're holding the plow, taking the steps. But internally, it's often a completely different story. We're just so restless. We're constantly comparing, doubting, and terrified of missing a more scenic path. It's like we're physically walking forward, but we're doing these crazy mental gymnastics looking backward. We haven't actually truly given up the thought of an alternative. So what does this all mean? Well, that mental restless energy simply proves our hearts lack ultimate determination. To put it bluntly, if we're still shopping around for a better spiritual deal while walking the path, our hearts are inconsistent. They aren't determined, and therefore they definitely aren't dead to the alternatives like we talked about earlier. Which brings us to Section 3, the trap of intelligence. Let's see how cleverness actually leads us astray. If restless doubt is the first major roadblock, the second is perhaps the most surprising argument in the entire essay. Zhu Feng issues a very clear, completely counterintuitive warning here. On the road to heaven, the smarter you are, the more flexible your mind is, the easier it is for you to deviate from the road. The author notes this as a direct observation from watching his former peers and fellow travelers who drifted away from their own spiritual goals. He asks rhetorically, which of them is not very smart? The implication here is fascinating. A highly active, clever mind is just really, really good at rationalizing detours. The essay then presents this specific four-step chain of degradation. It shows exactly how worldly things systematically break down our true spiritual nature. It starts with being blinded by benefits, which decreases our true spiritual intelligence, which then makes the mind somber and ultimately suppresses our inherent nature. Let's break these down one by one, starting with step 1. Step 1 is being blinded by benefits. Now, the text defines benefits not just as cash in the bank, but as all earthly desires and social currencies. We're talking about money, wealth, status, reputation, and beauty. The essay argues that the moment a person allows themselves to be blinded by the pursuit of these worldly benefits, their true higher-level spiritual intelligence actually starts to decrease. And that leads directly to step 2, which is what happens when that higher intelligence drops
and gets replaced by worldly intelligence. The text posits that the stuff we commonly praise as intelligence in the real world, things like cleverness, shrewdness, ingenuity, and temporizing, which is basically just a fancy word for carefully reading the room and playing people to gain an edge, are actually spiritual traps. Once a person is blinded by this kind of shrewd intelligence, their mind becomes somber. They get so hyper-focused on playing this immediate, everyday social chess game that they completely lose the ability to see the distant, beautiful view of their spiritual destination.
And here is the final, tragic stage of that entire sequence. When the restless mind is galloping everywhere, when it's worried, scheming, and trying to secure worldly benefits, it imprisons our true nature. And the author states this incredibly plainly. Nature is Buddha, nature is God. By letting a clever, scheming mind take the wheel, you're actively suppressing your own inherent divinity. When your Buddha nature, your divinity is locked away in a cage of worldly worries, you fundamentally block yourself from ever reaching heaven or nirvana.
Let's dive into Section 4, the burden of caring. This is what the text considers the most powerful trap. You see, just avoiding money and clever scheming isn't quite enough. We actually have to confront the most complex roadblock of all. The author introduces a deeply controversial viewpoint here. Human love and caring act as the ultimate strategic trap. He refers to it as the most powerful of the 36-8 diagram tactics, which is this ancient Chinese framework of military and psychological strategies. In this specific view, earthly love isn't seen as a virtue. No way. It's viewed as the ultimate tactical snare that binds you to the physical world. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly why caring is considered a trap. The essay explains that where there is love, there is caring. And if you care, you are going to experience what the author calls reversal dreams. We can define reversal dreams basically as the mental turbulence, the illusions, and all those reversed priorities caused by human attachment. This turbulence directly blocks your path to ultimate spiritual peace. If you're deeply tethered to the worries of loved ones here on earth, the text argues you simply cannot elevate to the complete detachment required for nirvana. Now, Xu Feng definitely acknowledges how incredibly difficult this concept is for human beings to accept. I mean, we are inherently sentient, emotional species. He actually pauses in the essay, noting that if he speaks too bluntly about giving up human love, he's going to be confronted by some very angry sentient beings. So instead, he points the reader toward a solution. He says, hey, look to the teachings of Jesus Christ and Buddha Sakyamuni. By studying their teachings, he suggests you can figure out the exact method to untangle yourself from this specific, incredibly powerful trap of human attachment. All right, final stretch. Section 5, the determined heart, the final key to the long road. We've seen the traps of looking back, the dangers of worldly cleverness, and the weight of human attachment. Now we look at the final key, which is brilliantly summarized in this juxtaposition. If your goal is going a long way down the spiritual road, it requires ultimate determination. It requires that dead heart we talked about right at the beginning, definitively giving up all those other ideas, attachments, and alternative routes. However, if your goal is simply surviving and enjoying the present physical world, well, then you need absolute vigilance and a clever, watchful mind. The author makes it absolutely crystal clear. You literally cannot walk both paths at the same time. And that brings us to the ultimate question you've got to answer for yourself after examining this profound text. Which path are you currently walking? Are you holding the plow, staring resolutely ahead with ultimate determination toward a higher spiritual plane? Or is your mind restless, relying on your cleverness to navigate the present and constantly looking back over your shoulder? It's a really challenging thought to leave you with, but one that might just change exactly how you view your own journey. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and keep questioning the path ahead.